What up though? D Carry here, and I'm gonna try to, as cohesively as possible, explain to you guys how I book my travel. My good sidekick down here, Binksy, so far so good. We're chilling. I got a bunch of notes here so that I can try to go somewhat step by step, but I've got to be honest, I don't exactly do everything step by step. I'm a free spirit, fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl. And when I book my travel, I have to arrange my time off first. It doesn't necessarily go by, when there's a travel deal or when those flight matrices like fuck up and give like those incredible deals, which would be great, but I have a great job and I've got a ton of time off, but it's kind of difficult to get time off. So when I do get it approved, that's when my travel has to happen. So first, I figure out when I'm going to be able to go. Once I have that squared away, I use Google Flights. Shout out to OG Bestie Alicia for putting me on to Google Flights. It has been a godsend. I essentially put in the dates that I'm traveling, and I just do like the random search populator where I forget what it's called. I'm feeling lucky. Click on that and it just randomizes a bunch of locations, and I see what I can afford, what's in my price range during the time that I'm available to freight, right? So from there, I kind of narrow it down to a few things. What's in my budget, and what am I actually interested in doing? There may be a really great deal during the time I'm available to go to Turks and Caicos. However, a couple things matter. One, what are the costs of the accommodations? It can be a round trip $100 flight, but if it's going to cost you $200 a night to stay there, having a week there, you're going to just kind of, depending on what your budget is, we're talking about me, I'm not spending $200 a night. Not doing it. So for me, that wouldn't work. Although the flight was really cheap or really affordable, the accommodations just weren't working for me. So a couple things have to line up. I got to be interested in it. It's got to be in my budget, and it's got to have cost-effective accommodations as well as a cost-effective flight for me. Also, what time do I have to prep? Sometimes I find out that I'm getting time approved like a week or two before that time actually comes up. So if I need a visa or if I need shots to go there with a week to spare, that's not going to happen. So those 4 things I keep in mind. I use Google Flights, and 1 has to be its affordability range. Is it in my budget? 2, am I interested in going? Is this someplace that I'm willing to spend a week? Because generally that's how long my vacations abroad are going to be. So am I interested in spending 5 days, 4 days there? Also, I'm kind of going to touch on it a little later. Is it possible for me to see another country while I'm there? So that can play a big role in where I choose. The cost of the accommodations, if it's going to run me more than I want to spend per night to stay there. Like there was this one time, I'm trying to remember what the country was, but it was maybe like, not St. Croix. It was one of those really expensive islands to get to. I'd found like a really decent flight to get there, but when I realized how much the accommodations were, it was way out of my range. And then, do I need visas, immunizations, shots, and all that other kind of shit? From there, I look into what type, well, as I mentioned, the accommodations, this is how I choose my accommodations. A lot of people travel and stay at hostels. I ain't that bold. I'm adventurous, but I'm not there yet. I know that in other countries, hostels are, in a lot of cases, very beautiful, very clean, very safe, and all that, but I'm not there. That's not for me. I always stay at a resort or a hotel. For me, I don't like sharing bathrooms. I do realize that some hostels do have private bathrooms, but again, there's but so much energy I'm willing to put into it. If you're willing to look into possibly finding hostels that do have like hotel accommodations, do you, boo? But me, not so much. I would prefer to stay at a hotel or a resort. 1, because I always travel solo. My personality, and also the lifestyle that I have, I'm single, and I am I don't have kids, so I spend my money differently than the majority of my friends. The majority of my friends are married and have children, or have children, so they can't just, you know, they have other things to be responsible for. If I want to come home and cook bacon for dinner, that's fine. It's just me and the dog. You know what I mean? She gonna eat that dry food. She gonna be happy, or she ain't gonna eat. Simple. So for me and my personality, I like staying at hotels because it gives me the flexibility to be as social or as antisocial as I choose. A lot of hotels have a bar or a common eating area, like a restaurant, or just like a space where they call a restaurant. But you can go, sit there, eat your dinner, eat your breakfast, whatever, and you can strike up a conversation with a total stranger. You can go to the bar and speak to somebody. When they find out I'm from New York, everybody wants to be my friend. So it can go, for me, that works. Know your personality style. If you can stay at a hostel, that's a great way to make friends. I've always spoken to people in my travels that have said that they love staying at hostels for that reason in particular, that you meet other people. Me, not about it. I don't like shared spaces. I'm not in college. What else? Another really big part of my travel is layovers. Layovers have been like an incredible blessing. They can give you the opportunity to basically get a 2-for-1. So I'm going to try to make sure I get all the really good details about layovers in this one. Look for layovers that you can extend without an additional cost to you. I want to say they're about 8, 12, I don't know. There's an article that a friend of mine tagged me in on Facebook, and there are maybe 8 or 12, and I'll put it in the description if I can find it. There are about 8 or 12 airlines that will heighten the perks, if you will, if you have extended layovers in their cities. I know Qatar Airways is one of them. Essentially, if you have a layover minimum of like 6 to 8 hours or longer, they will give you a tour of the city for free when you lay over there. So what I'm saying is, I'm flying from JFK, New York City, to Qatar, and from Qatar, I went to Phuket in Thailand. So in Doha, Qatar Airways will give you a free tour of the city. They will also waive the visa fee so that you can leave the airport, go on the tour, or if you decide to stay, you can extend your layover time to include lodging and accommodations without increasing the cost of your ticket. So let's say a flight from JFK, Doha, which is in Qatar, to Phuket in Thailand, let's just give a round figure of $500 with a 1-hour layover. I could extend my layover to 2 days without increasing the cost of my ticket. So if I've got a 5-day stay, as opposed to spending 5 days in Phuket, I can spend 3 days in Phuket and 2 days in Qatar for the same price. Get where I'm going here? Another great thing about Doha, Qatar Airways, is that they'll give you a tour of Doha, their capital city of Qatar, for no cost. You show up, sign in at a like a tourism desk at the airport, which is like a 6-star, 5-star hotel airport, which I think only maybe a handful of airlines around the world are, I guess, fortunate enough to boast about. It's like a mall and a hotel in, like, you forget you're in an airport. That's how like schwanky it is, if you will. Anyway, if you have an extended layover, you can actually use that time like wisely. You can see an entire different city on your way to your final destination. So one of those is Qatar Airways. They will waive your visa fee and they will give you a tour of the city for free. I suggest going in the day, because although there are some really beautiful sights to see at night in terms of just like seeing the city lit up, you don't get a good feel of the city in the dark. Personal feelings, personal opinion here. What else? It will also give you, I guess, budget lodging, if you will. You have the option of staying at a 4 or 5-star hotel for like $50 a night. The catch with that is you're supposed to apply for your visa and get your visa approved before you book. The catch with that, for me was, by the time I got my visa approved, which you apply for through Qatar Airways so that they'll waive the visa fee since you're going on the tour, or since you're doing it through the airline, I should say, because you don't necessarily have to do the tour. But once you apply through the airline, they will waive the visa if you use the program that they're offering. I'm trying to make the whole process in my mind make sense in words. If you go to Qatar Airways, do enough clicking and it'll kind of make sense to you, yeah? Also, taking, I guess, which would be a step back since I already mentioned lodging. When it comes to deciding on where I'm gonna stay, I consider a few things. One, what's nearby. I've learned from experience that it matters. If nothing more than because of the cost of transportation to the things you want to do. I went to Barcelona. I stayed in a city, I want to say it's pronounced Lagaria, I'm not certain. And it was absolutely beautiful, but it was like an hour from Barcelona. So a cab from where I was staying, or a taxi, I don't know what you call it where you are, it's the same thing. For us in New York, we call it either. The cost was like 70 euros with no traffic to get to the city. So 70 euros is like maybe $80 just to go one way, okay? One way. So the cost of doing stuff, it was a beautiful town to be in. I had mountains to look at, and I mean, it was incredible scenery, but it kind of blew an entire afternoon of exploring the city of Barcelona that I could have done. You get me? Because the excursions that I wanted to do, I knew I had to meet in the city. So you kind of got away. Can I afford to pay roughly $80 both ways to the city so that for more than one trip? You get what I'm saying? So I would have had to do it to have a couple of hours in the city that evening, and then do it again to get to the city so that I can do one of the excursions that I wanted to do. So consider what's nearby. If you know that you're going to want to leave your hotel, then you might want to make sure that it's in an area that you're going to be centrally located to things you're interested in. If you're interested in doing water things, beach things, make sure that you stay at a hotel that's either near that or that you can get to, that will have affordable taxis or an airport shuttle or like an area shuttle. The catch with those is call and make sure that the shuttle still operates. I only booked that accommodation in Lagaria because it said it had an airport shuttle. Turns out I had Expedia call and that wasn't a thing. They just take a cab. So I got fucked. And it was, of course, one of those situations where it was at the time where there were no cancellations. You know, like when I booked, that was it. So that was a lesson I learned the hard way. What else? Oh, that's another reason why I like booking with Expedia. I've had good and bad experiences with them, but one of the good experiences I found is that they'll call the hotel for you. This way you can avoid foreign fees when you're doing like international calls. You don't have to pay for it if you have Expedia make the call for you. So Expedia can call and confirm whether or not they do have an airport shuttle. They can arrange to set the shuttle up to pick you up from the airport, or they can at least confirm the correct email address to send those requests in written form to the hotel, because a lot of times the hotel websites will have outdated information. You're sending emails and wait for a response, and you're wondering why. What else? So also read reviews. I generally stick to TripAdvisor and Expedia when it comes to reviews for an accommodation. I also really enjoy looking at photos that people that stay there post, because the hotel or the hostel or wherever you're going to stay is only going to put the best photos, right? So you want regular schmegular degular Joe and Jean to post a photo so that you know what it is you're actually going to see when you get there. What else? Oh, another thing that I really have benefited from were accommodations that actually had a travel desk or a concierge person that was able to assist with tours. I don't know if you watched my Bermuda video, but Miss Joyce was an incredible asset during my trip in Bermuda. And in my last trip, I just got back yesterday from, where did I go? Costa Rica. And the young lady at the desk, Rebecca, was an incredible asset to me because she really helped when it came to suggestions and with booking tours for me to do. So consider the location from things you want to do, not just like the nicest hotel. You can find the nicest hotel that's in the middle of nowhere. Now you got to spend wild money to get to the things that you want to do while you're there, right? Another thing that I've learned: does the view matter? I went to St. Martin. I took my mom for her birthday, and we stayed at a hotel that had an incredible staff. However, there was absolutely no view. When I tell you we had one window that opened up to the parking lot, I was pissed. I learned then and there, I need someplace with something to look at. So keep that in mind. When you're booking, are you booking a basic room, or are you booking a room that's going to have the amenities that you're looking for? Don't want to get there and then be that person that's expecting a 10 when you only paid for like a 4. You get what I'm saying? So be careful of what you're booking. Make sure that you're aware of your amenities that you're getting, whether or not breakfast or dinner or whatever is included, whether or not there's a balcony. I love balconies. Balconies are a big deal to me because I enjoy being outside with the luxury of being in my shorts and t-shirt without having to actually get dressed to go anywhere. What else? Considering where you're going, you may want to be aware of whether or not it's a dry hotel, and also if you're traveling with someone, whether it's a vacation or you just happen to have a crew of male and females going someplace, especially if you're going to, say, a strict Muslim country. Dry hotel doesn't serve any alcohol, and some of them, according to Expedia, do require proof that you're married to the person that you're going to be sharing the room with, if it's a male and a female kind of thing. Not my blessing, not my burden, however you want to look at it. I travel solo, so those aren't things that, at least in terms of the proof of marriage, that I've had to worry about. But in terms of reading reviews and notes on Expedia, something to consider. Also, food, room service. I like room service. When I go on vacation, I like to treat myself. Also, I don't like wearing pants. So if I could just throw on some shorts and open the door, get my food, take off my shorts and eat, I'm a happy camper. So room service is a plus for me. You want to make sure that, is there an additional cost for room service? Is it something that's available? If there's nothing really for you to eat in the area, how many restaurants does your hotel have? So in a nutshell, remember the things that matter to you on a regular basis. What else? Renting a car. I generally don't rent a car. I don't like driving when I'm home. Hate it. So I try to avoid renting a car, generally because I don't speak the language of the place that I'm going to, and I'm not trying to not know where I'm going and then not also be able to read the signs. And you know how Google Maps always kind of does that weird pronunciation because she doesn't really know how to say all the street names and the highway names the way the people there do, that kind of thing. I don't want those problems. So renting a car, I can't really help you with that one. I also know that when it comes to parking, a lot of the excursions you may want to do, what if there's no parking? What are you going to do? If there's like a ferry that you have to take, or if it's something that last minute you want to decide to stay overnight, can you just leave the car where you parked it? You know what I mean? Those are the little kind of things here and there that I like not to worry myself about, so I choose not to. What else? Mentioned excursions a few times. I've had quite my share of good and bad excursion experiences. Most of them have been good, thank God. So I, as a rule of thumb, don't like booking the excursions before I leave for the trip because you don't necessarily know what's going to happen with the weather, and two, you don't know what you're going to feel like doing when you get there. You might get there and say, you know what, I don't feel like doing anything today. It's your vacation. Don't necessarily force yourself into doing things if your body and your soul is telling you this is the day you need to just rest. So I was supposed to go to Martinique back in January. About 4 hours, no, not 4 hours, maybe 7 hours before my flight, I get a text message, and the flight was canceled. Long story short, I ended up canceling the entire trip and booking an entirely new country. I ended up going to Bermuda. But if I had booked the excursions for Martinique, because I had put time into figuring out what I wanted to do, and I basically had a list of places and things that I was going to do. If I had booked them, I might have been screwed, because it would have been, to my experience, most of the Expedia excursions, because that's usually who I book my excursions through, most of the Expedia excursions require 72 hours prior to the day of the excursion for you to cancel and get your money back. That can be very difficult to do. So it's worked in my benefit, where not having the excursions booked has worked. This last trip, I went to Costa Rica. I ended up booking a beach day, and it turns out I changed my mind. I've been to enough beaches in my life that when it came down to deciding what to do with my limited time there, I preferred going to the rainforest and exploring that as opposed to going to the beach. So I tried to cancel the excursion in advance, but it ended up being just a loop around of, you got to call this person, you got to call this person, we're going to call you back, this person never calls you back. And I lost out. I lost the money because it wasn't within the window. Like, the decision got made 3 days prior to, but not necessarily 72 hours prior to. So they're going to get you when they can. It's business. Take it personal if you want. For me, it just pleased my soul more to not stress the money, because I can make more money in the future. I can't make more time, and I can't necessarily make more Costa Rica memories. Who knows when I'll be back, yeah? All right, so be careful about booking them in advance. What you can do is, if you use Expedia to book your excursions, I've had good experiences using Expedia to book them. If you do decide to use it, what I suggest doing is knowing in advance how many days prior you need to book it. Learned that when I was in Doha. I wanted to do a desert tour, but I didn't know that you couldn't book it day of. Some things you can book the day of, some things you need a certain number of hours prior, and other things you need a couple of days prior before you're able to book for the excursion. This one in particular, you need it like 4 days in advance. I was only there for 2 days, so obviously that wasn't going to work to my benefit. So I ended up overpaying for my desert tour. Now, when I say overpay, I mean in the sense that I could have paid less for what it is that I did. However, the experience that I in turn did get ended up being well worth the money that I spent. I ended up booking through the hotel. That's another great resource for when you're going someplace. So again, I repeat, make sure that if excursions matter, if getting out and doing things matter, having a place that actually has a travel liaison, if you will, can really come to your advantage, because they can pull off a lot of last minute things for you. Another thing is, if the hotel books it for you, you're less likely to have to pay an additional fee for transportation. When I was in Costa Rica, one of the tours that I wanted to do wasn't able to pick me up from my hotel because it wasn't a centrally located hotel. So that basically means, I guess, the more popular locations, they could pick me up, but it was going to cost me more. So I ended up paying more for that experience. However, it turned out to be the most incredible experience of the week. So it's happened to my advantage. When I end up paying more, it works to my advantage. However, if you can avoid that and the price matters, and just to save your damn money, save your coins for the next trip, know these things in advance. Go to Expedia, open up the dates for the current week. This way you can see, if today is Monday, I'm going to need to know before the Monday that I'm going what I want to do for Thursday, because this excursion in particular will only let you book 3 or 4 days in advance. I can't wait until Wednesday to decide what I want to do, or if I want to do this excursion in particular on Thursday. So try booking in the window so that you see what your window of opportunity is. That's my suggestion, so that if there's something you know you definitely want to do and weather isn't necessarily an option, you can make sure that you can get it at the best possible cost. It's also an option to email or call the hotel that you're going to be staying at to see if they can give you a better cost. Again, these are all things that you can do if you want to put that extra legwork in. Me, a lot of things I do last minute, and I see where it lands, yeah? When it comes to excursions, not every excursion needs to be paid for. I enjoy exploring a city by myself. When I went to Bermuda, I ended up looking at all of the little tours and the destinations and the places that were included on the tours, and I realized that most of the packages offered had things that I didn't want to do. So I'm not going to pay $60 to go to 4 out of 10 places that I'm actually interested in. So cherry pick. Figure out where some of the things that you're interested in are. Can you get to them by yourself? Do you need a taxi? Is there a bus or a train in the area that you're going to be going to? Also consider whether or not it's the off season for the location that you're traveling to. Another thing, I went to Bermuda in January. It was off season, so a lot of the things that I was possibly interested in doing weren't available because it was out of season. So that's something else to look into. Are the excursions that you're interested in doing available during the time that you're going to be at that location? That may actually be a deciding factor as to whether or not you want to go to that location when you have time available to go. Also consider the time that you have in a location. Although I like exploring a city by myself, if you've only got a day in an area and you know what you want to see, it may pay to book a tour guide. This way you can see the most in the little bit of time that you have, and you can have a more full experience, if you will. All-inclusive options versus non-all-inclusive options. A lot of hotels, some hotels have an all-inclusive option without being advertised as an all-inclusive. I mentioned Bermuda again. There was an all-inclusive option but it was advertised as an all-inclusive location as well. I knew that what they were asking for on Expedia, I could never do. I can't do $300 worth of anything in a damn day. Can't do it. So for an everyday option, $300 extra a day, $300 extra in one day, not happening for me. But when I got to the hotel, it was only like an extra $110 or something like that per day. So for the last 3 days, it included breakfast, dinner, and everything that I could want to do, all the equipment's on the grounds. Now, considering it was off season, that was a limited amount of things to do, but drinks were included, meals were included. So for me, $110 a day, that worked out for that location. The location that I recently stayed at in Costa Rica wasn't really worth it. I ended up only having maybe 4 options on the menu that included the dinner. Breakfast being all included was great because the breakfast was good every day. Dinner, the options were like pasta and 3 different sauces. That was it. You could do spaghetti or you can do penne, and you could do like bolognese, you could do Alfredo, or you can do marinara sauce. That was dinner. That was it, or a sandwich. So for what I paid extra, having to just do pasta and a salad, for me, I would have preferred just paying for, going to eat, to enjoy the meal a little better. So, I mean, that one is more than I really want to get into right now. You gotta weigh your options. Sometimes it's a win, sometimes it's a loss. Honestly, I didn't pay that much more every day for me to be that upset about what I paid for it. But in hindsight, if you can look into what the menu is beforehand, that might help in your decision as to whether or not you want to pay the extra for the meals to be included. If your options for the meals are trash and you're going to eat something else anyway, why pay for the food you know you're not going to eat? You feel me? In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. In the comments below, feel free to drop any extra traveling comments or tips, questions you may have, different hacks and things that you use when it comes to booking your trips. Thanks for watching it thus far. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz, and I'll see you at my next upload. Laters.